You said I just did. I just opened it. Ow. Kiss me.
No.
Kiss me right now.
What I love about Nicole.
I want to see if it leaves an imprint on your cheek here. Come here.
You're beautiful.
It does. Look at that. It kind of looks like I punched you in the face, honestly. It doesn't read like a cute kiss. Women have to do this every day, and they're heroes for it. Actually, they're liars. You know how many gross pigs I've seen without their makeup? Don't include that in the video. I kind of look like a Danny DeVito in that one It's Always Sunny episode when he has that mortician do his makeup. Or here, I'll just take a selfie. And I'm going to tweet him and say, James Charles, I need help. Look how haunting that picture is. Jesus Christ. This looks terrible. I don't look white enough, Allison. It needs to look cartoonish. Someone said you're not under 18. He won't reply, sadly.
Renfield.
Renfield. I look like the lead singer of The Cure.
Except he looks like mashed potatoes now.
I look like mashed potatoes now. God, Jacob is such a fucking bitch. I'm glad we have this girl time. Oh, God. Why does it smell so strong?
Why are you so messy?
Because we're boys.
Are you confident with this?
Yeah, I'm not gonna poke you in the eye. Just
Allison,
your makeup
you
makes
need.
you look like a sick dog. Your teeth look so yellow right now.
What do you mean they look
Because your
yellow?
face is stark ass white. With your normal fucking jaundiced skin, they look white. Your eyes are pretty though.
Shut up.
Like your eyeballs, not your makeup.
Yeah, I know. Your eyes are gross. You're holding me like
Stop moving away from me.
I know how women feel at the club.
You could have been Dracula, dude.
Renfield. Anyone else disappointed with Hunter's makeup for this review?
You look badass, dude.
Welcome back to the Papa Meat channel. Come on in and sit on down.
Today we're going to be talking about Renfield, the new Nicolas Cage vampire movie. Ah, vampire movies. A classic staple in the horror franchise. Starting back in the 30s with Bela Lugosi with the beautiful black and white Universal horrors, and kind of having a huge resurgence in the 80s and 90s, and just when you think that you're out of it, boom! Twilight happens in the 2000s. More than any other trope, even zombies or werewolves or whatever, vampires are just kind of always around. They're always here. They're always permeant in culture and, you know, fucking sex and everything else that happens. There's a lot of ways to do social commentary with vampires, which is why I was curious for Nicolas Cage to come in and play Dracula himself. Let's talk about what this movie's even about. Nicholas Hoult stars as Renfield, the servant and familiar to Dracula, played by the wonderful Nick Cage. Renfield is tired of killing for Dracula, but is too afraid to say no. With the help of his support group and Aquafina, Renfield must muster up the courage to stand up to Dracula, or else he will be doomed. You know, I'll be honest, I went into this movie and I made an expectation. I did a trailer video earlier this year, or a couple weeks ago, maybe a month ago by now. I went into this movie with very low expectations, thinking that, oh, they're gonna use Nicolas Cage as the main selling point of this movie, but they're gonna pull a Jared Leto Joker moment where he's in like a couple scenes and that's it. Easy pay grade. But I tell you, I came out with it pleasantly surprised. I had a good time with this movie. There's a lot more Nicolas Cage than I thought it would be. As a spoiler warning and as a quick rating, I get like a 6.5 out of 10. It was a fun time. For a generic comedy with Nicolas Cage as the vampire, it could be much worse. And I thought that, you know, this is a fun one. So if you're trying to finger your girlfriend or something this weekend and you need a movie to go see, maybe try this one. Maybe you can finger her there. We'll see. But yeah, spoiler warnings for here on out. So there you go. Now, I think it's worth going in knowing that this is a comedy movie. This is a silly, goofy movie. But how does it compare to the other kind of cheesy vampire movies out there? I mean, some of my favorite classics. Blade, Wesley Snipes. It's a black vampire that knows kung fu that just beats the shit out of people. It's fucking awesome. It's really, really stupid, but it's a lot of fun. Interview with a Vampire, sexy Brad Pitt, Tom Cruise. Oh, you think they're gonna fuck the whole movie, but they don't. But it's a classic. And even the 90s Dracula film, Bram Stoker's Dracula, with Keanu Reeves and Gary Oldman, which I thought felt very similar to this because back in the day, everyone was like, oh, Keanu Reeves, he's the new hip, hot guy. We'll throw him in the movie. And he was the worst part of that movie. But needless to say, the movie's still fucking amazing. Or it can fall on the bad tier of campy vampire movies. Remember 30 Days of Night? Remember that? It was a comic book. The trailer had that really good scene where the guy's like, oh God. He says that, and you're like, oh my God, this seems awesome. And then it was terrible. Or yeah, like we already talked about Twilight. Remember when girls used to finger themselves with that book? Remember saying those big black books with the fucking apple everywhere just creased up and just covered in. And then even, you know, in theaters, I remember back in the day, I think it was in junior high or something, I saw Abe Lincoln's Vampire Hunter, or whatever the fuck that movie was, where it's Abe Lincoln and he hunts down vampires. And it's the funny, ironic thing to be like, no, it's hilarious and cool, but it's just really, really bad. Which side does it fall on? Which spectrum does it fall on? And I think it falls on kind of the funner side. It probably has some Halloween rewatchability, I would say. You could probably pop this on. But really, people are wondering, how does it fare with Nicolas Cage's performance, right? The only reason that Nicolas Cage movies sell anymore is because people want to see the freak out. They want to have that Nicolas Cage experience, right? Does he top his performance in Mandy? Does he top his performance at Wild at Heart? Do you even remember his movie Vampire Kiss? Does he even compare to Vampire Kiss? That's a good Nicolas Cage freakout movie. It's pretty good. And I think he does. I mean, when you have Nick Cage in a movie, you want to utilize him, but you don't want to like steer him too far gone. Like, the problem is mostly scripts. It's never Nicolas Cage's fault. Nicolas Cage is just like this rabid dog that's on a chain. And you can kind of guide him and do whatever you want, but if you just let him go in no direction, then he's gonna fuck up and it's just gonna be nonsense, which will sell some tickets, but it's not a great performance. And you get something like Wicker Man, which is like a bad remake, you know, the B scene and stuff. You get Vampire's Kiss, where he's like A, B, C, D, you know, you get that kind of stuff. Or you can hone him in and you get something like Raising Arizona. You get something like Pig. Give the man a good script and he will conjure gold. He's an alchemist that way. Nicolas Cage is also the only one of the last few celebrities too that has the power where people will go see a movie just because he's in it. I really think so. You have like some heartthrob stuff like Pedro Pascal, but I don't think it's nothing compared to like you'll be scrolling through on a streaming service thing and be like, oh, Nicolas Cage is in this, we should watch it. He has that kind of draw still that a lot of old school Hollywood people have. Not really anybody has that anymore that I can think of. He's such a character, such a great actor, honestly, and it's good to know that at least this script served him well. The script was funny, it was competent enough to where we get a fun performance out of this. And I think that's what's going to make it the most memorable thing, is seeing Nicolas Cage up being Dracula and being an evil menace and so, you know, evil and quirky, and you can tell he's just having a lot of fun on screen. So that's fun. I liked it. There's a lot of funny actors too in it. It's good. He is obviously the highlight of this movie, but there's plenty of times where Nicolas Cage comes on screen. He's a good actor, but he's like very funny. Knows how to work his way through a scene. He knows how to really boost other people up comedically as well, because Ben Schwartz is in this, and not funny. I didn't care for the Ben Schwartz appearance. I'll go ahead and say it. Awkwafina's in the film. I liked her. I liked her performance. She's very deadpan, and she's also like, her timing for delivery is really fun. She has the same posture as Woody Allen, which I thought was kind of funny. She's in a cop suit, but she's just very like stiff and everything. It's just funny. Her whole motive for the movie is justice, and I find that to be kind of fun. She wants retribution, and she wants like the law to win, which is a good concept for a cop character. So that was fun and consistent. There's like a little stupid family melodrama that you probably could have had without, but it's not too distracting. It's fine. And Nicholas Hoult as Renfield, he's like a likable character. I just like him. I like that guy. I think he was Beast in the X-Men movies too. He was also in this Hugh Grant movie called About a Boy when he was like 7, and he was good in that. He played the character well, but he does not look like an action guy. Like whenever all the action was happening, it just looked awkward. But Renfield, I mean, it's cool. There's parts of the movie where he is like decomposed, so it's like Nicolas Cage in like this zombie outfit, and you can barely understand what he's saying. It's a lot of fun. So I think that it gives you, it's not so over the top to where it's like they gave him no direction and he's just screaming on set for like 4 days or however long he's there. It feels like they actually honed in his acting and he gave a good performance. So I would say, you know, I would say it's not as chaotic and awesome as Mandy, but it's like around Wild at Heart. Probably not as crazy as Vampire Kiss, but you know, very rare performances allow you to say the alphabet in that fun way. So
A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P, Q.
It's doing a thing that's popular right now, which is a lot of like vampire movies have action sequences in it, and it's like they're comedy movies, but they have cool action. Like it's like a John Wick inspired thing. One that stands out to me of recent years is, I want to say it's Daybreakers or it's Daybreak or something. It's that Netflix Jamie Foxx vampire movie with one of the Franco brothers. And in that movie, it's pretty fun. It's like about vampires who are in real estate. All of the action shots are filmed really, really well to where it's like, why is this film so good? Why is the action so fun in this? Which adds to the comedy, which is cool. In Renfield, a lot of the action and stuff, it's just not shot very well. It feels very cheap. And I think that it's the worst part of it. Every time there was an action scene on screen, it was kind of just like, Let's get over, you know? I mean, like, the CGI blood looked like giant vats of tomatoes, like Campbell soup, and that doesn't look good. There are fun, like, violent moments, though, but it's just mostly the action scenes as a whole were just really boring, versus, like, seeing Nicolas Cage, like, rip open someone's intestines or, like, bite somebody, or seeing dudes, like, intestines fall out, or there's, like, this one scene where Renfield rips off these guys' arms and he, like, impales these dudes to the wall with them, and that's pretty fun. But all in all, it's, like, trying to be, like, a cool action, which it just feels really out of place. It doesn't feel like the fun out of place either. Like that one scene in Malignant. Remember that movie that came out recently by James Wan? Out of like randomly was my favorite movie of like 2020, I think. But in that movie, all of a sudden, it's just like a beautifully choreographed, beautifully shot action scene that has no business being that good, but it is. We never really get to that level with Renfield. It's always just kind of stupid. It kind of reminds me of Kick-Ass a little bit, like the lull moments of like Kick-Ass or Kick-Ass 2. This whole movie feels like vampires but Kick-Ass, which is funny because Nicolas Cage was also in Kick-Ass. So for me personally, the action was just distracting. Like having Renfield be a superpower, he eats bugs and he gets superpowers, and it's like they're visually to be fun and like keep the movie energetic, but I feel like I just would have liked this timid man who is just kind of immortal, and he's just like, none of the action stuff felt warranted or felt like this is fun. I would have rather just seen more crazy, powerful Nicolas Cage and how do these not so powerful people take out Dracula. Kind of, I get, you know, maybe just the standard thing, like a Fright Night. One thing that's good about vampire movies is always like Dracula or vampires are like these omnipotent beings, and like how these like little ragtag team of characters defeat Dracula. Like in Fright Night, the kids are in a position of needing to beat Dracula because Dracula's trying to get some pussy. And it's fun. It's a fun thing to watch these kids explore and break into his house and, you know, have all these different things. And one thing I will say about this movie, it's not consistent. I think that's what feels weird. You know what I mean? It's not so over the top like Blade, who's a superhero, to where the choreograph is like fun and cool and there's like machine guns and the whole movie has that pace. So it's like this movie where it's like cutesy rom-com stuff and then random action scene. Cutesy rom-com, also this guy's trying to not be Dracula's assistant anymore. I just liked all the stuff that wasn't the action scenes. I thought that was fun. There are positives to this movie. I want to say that. The script, it isn't like the strongest thing, but they capitalize on really dumb, stupid like vampire rules, and they use that to their own gain for funny moments in the script. It's not like the most perfect thing in the world, but it doesn't have to be. As like a viewer watching the movie, I know I wasn't supposed to like take it too seriously, and it was a good time. And it was also cohesive enough too, where you're like, that's a fun story. That's a nice period to the story kind of thing. And I don't know, I can't tell if they set up sequel bait or not. I feel like they were trying to like be a little ambiguous to where it's like, oh, if this really pops off, we have room to kind of have another story. It's just, I can't emphasize enough, the beats of the movie felt so much like Kick-Ass. Even like the spoiled mafia kid, you have that was like the McLovin guy in Kick-Ass, and now that's Ben Schwartz here. McLovin had, I think, a Charger. This guy has a Charger. They're both the sons to like a mob boss. They both are like trying to get power and more responsibility in their thing, but they're pussies. They're like nerds. I mean, it's like kind of, like verbatim, whatever, except at the end of this movie, spoilers, he gets kicked in the gut and he shits himself and he breaks every bone in his body, but it looks like he dies. I will say the mafia leader in this movie, just one horrible voice. Worse than Ray Liotta in those Chantix commercials.
I can't tell you how good it feels to have smoking behind me.
She's just like, hi, Dracula. But they never say anything about it. I just wish there was a joke about it. Like Ben Schwartz's character just being like, my mom's, you know, she reads me poems every night, so I go to bed because she has the voice of an angel. And then she's just like, come on, sweetheart. You know what I mean? Just something, it needed to be addressed. It's like, it's almost like she had a giant burn on her face and everyone's just like, no one's even gonna ask about it. Is there no story there? You're not curious at all why her voice sounds like that. Just as an audience member, I'm like, why do you sound like this? They did a cool thing at the beginning too, when Renfield's kind of telling his backstory, where it's like, they kind of take it back to like a Universal horror, black and white, grainy image thing, and it's talking about who he was before all this, before he became Dracula's servant or whatever, slave. And it does a cool callback to Universal Pictures, like horror, like black and white film, and that was really fun. It was shot well. I wish we kind of stayed in it longer. Honestly, when I was like watching it, I was kind of like, oh, this would have been fun if the whole movie was just in this time period and it was just shot like this. I thought that would be really cool. I understand why, because I know people are very like, oh, it looks old, I don't want to see it, but it would have been a lot of fun, especially because Nicolas Cage looked great in that. Like, I thought he looked really, really good. His vampire makeup is good in all of it, but in black and white, it just looked like a lot like Bela Lugosi, which I know that's what they're going for, but it didn't look like it's like, oh, it's Bela Lugosi. It's just, he captured that vibe really well. In terms of like practical effects, there's really not a lot of practical kills. I think a lot of them are CGI. They have action sequences, but then they kind of cover it in big, thick Campbell's tomato soup blood, which the tomato soup, it's not even that's a problem because that's what Quentin Tarantino kind of does, but it's practical and it kind of looks like just like giant like tomato soup syrup, and that's kind of fun. It's like an aesthetic, but in digital, it just looks really kind of bad. It just wasn't good. But there was one cool set piece because they're staying in an abandoned hospital the whole time, and they gave Nicolas Cage this really dope throne, and there's like all these blood bags behind him, and I just thought that was a really fun set piece. It visually really popped and stuff. But it's cool to have, if you're gonna have an eccentric character, you should have eccentric sets and stuff. So at least they had that. I was just stoked when I saw that. I was like, you know, that's fun, that's cool. Let's be real though, is this a movie where you can make smooches with your girlfriend? Is this a movie where you might be able to have a little raunchy time in the back? Probably not. I think that this is going to be a packed movie. We saw this at 5 p.m. on, what is this, Thursday? It was sold out. Every showing was sold out. It's gonna be a while. Is it gonna be something where you could be like, hey, come over and chill and let's watch this? I don't know. I think it'd be too distracting. I think you'd have too much fun watching the movie. You'd want to do a little taco tickle, but you'd probably forget. I'm actually curious if people like Daybreakers more with Jamie Foxx or this movie. The action is better in Daybreakers, but the comedy is better in Renfield.
Oh, is it both comedy?
Yeah, they're both comedies. I definitely think Renfield is more of just a straight comedy, which it's, once again, it makes the action scenes so like, nothing about that character needed to be action packed. He should have just been a guy. It would have made him much more torturous too if it's just he's this powerless guy who's immortal and he's just kind of like lugging around bodies. It makes like him having to bring bodies to Dracula more difficult. I just wish you just take out all that stuff. You can still have the cop chick or whatever, but just take out all the other stuff, you know?
It should have been like him leading Dracula to places and then Dracula slaying.
Yeah, like Renfield brings him to places, then Dracula wakes up and he kills people. Or even a fun thing too would have been Renfield is like, oh, we have to move, master, and he takes him to some place that's like a trap or something, like betraying him or something. Like seeing how that unfolds in the Dracula lore, in the actual book or in the old movie, I think Renfield, the character, eats bugs because he thinks it makes him immortal, and Dracula is just like, yep, it does. Like, so it's kind of funny because Renfield's kind of psychotic, but in this one they use that lore and they kind of switch it, and it's like, oh, it gives him powers. But even the movie itself is like, oh, it just works, don't worry about it, which is fine, but at the same time it's just really stupid. And it's just like, oh, why did you even have that in there? You already have the guy look all like weak and frumpy and stuff. Why even have him be a big badass? Like, it's a juxtaposition, but it's like, is it worth it? And I think no. But all in all, I recommend Renfield. I think you should go see it, especially in theaters. It was a lot of fun with like an audience and a crowd. There's a lot of big laughs and stuff. And do I think it's the best like Cageism? Do I think it's the best like freak out fun Nick Cage movie? No, I think that like in the grand scheme of things, I think it'll be like tucked away somewhere in the middle of his catalog, but it doesn't need to be a giant freak out. But still, it's always worth reporting in because I think people are mostly curious about that. Great vampire film. If you like vampires and if you like Nicolas Cage and if you like getting blowjobs or fingering people in movie theaters, maybe go see it. Go see Renfield, but sit in the back of the theater and just eat Milk Duds as loud as you can. The most challenging of candies, Milk Duds. Just it was very unfortunate because when I was sitting down in the theater, a little girl behind me saw my ass crack and she pointed to her dad who was sitting down and she was like, "Daddy, a butt crack." And I heard the dad and the daughter laugh at me, and I felt very bad. That made me feel very self-conscious. I need to wear more belts. It's more of a story. It's actually like just the hair pouring out of my ass. It doesn't matter. I just, you know, come on.